Hi, my name is Felix Fry.
And I'm Marco Rajnica.
We're here to find great trading opportunities that target 150 to 400% returns. And you? Well, you're going to help us do it every single day. So welcome. This is the Winning Picks Podcast. This podcast is for educational purposes only. OptionsGeek LLC is not a broker-dealer. OptionsGeek LLC, Felix Fry, and Marco Rajnica are not registered investment advisors. Keep in mind, options involve substantial risk and are not suitable for everyone. Please consult your own investment advisor before doing any trading. Make sure you read the full disclaimer at the end of this episode.
Hey, Felix.
How you doing, buddy?
Not so great since my NIO got downgraded. So,
well, you got 3 or 4 upgrades over the last, couple of days. I actually would say it looks pretty damn good after a downgrade. It's actually trading up after trading lower. So, not the end of the world. I would say that you're still probably okay there. But I did see something interesting. They speak about NIO because I'm looking at. We talked a little bit about Tesla yesterday, and we talked a little bit about sort of the price action. So we see, let me share my screen. You have my screen up there?
No, you need to share
it. Yeah, let me share it to you
real quick.
All right, so let me share. So you're looking at NIO, and yes, NIO is downgraded here, but it still looks pretty. That's a good chart, and the fact that it got downgraded after a spike like that, and came off from 75, it traded 60 and then bounced. That's pretty good. So let's I wanted to look at yesterday because Tesla was getting beat up pretty bad yesterday, and we're talking about the shorts sort of looking for this mountain, right, to end, right? They're looking for that confirmation, and just when you think you got it, the market jumps back and trades up 6%, $50 again. So this, 1, 2, 3 up and down here, doesn't feel like the top of the mountain, if you will. It's close. It feels close. It feels like one last gasp to 950 or something like that is on its way. Maybe Thursday's Biden announcement will get that moving in that direction. But this to me is a little bit long in the tooth. And I think this right here, it's not this last one straight up, trades at the all-time highs, ends up lower, and then, the next day trades right back to 800. So I could see a quick 950 move back to 800 in 3 days. I wouldn't be surprised. Let's just say that. So that's what I'm looking at here. It doesn't look like the top of the mountain, especially after the longs recapture sort of what the damage that was done yesterday. Makes sense?
Yes.
So we're looking at that. We're talking about, let's look quickly about how the other ones are acting. You had this NIO down a little bit or not trading as well. And then the other ones, we said this was a big level. It's got to pick up. Anything more than this doesn't look good yesterday, trades down here. This is clearly the level, 27.5. We don't want it to be anywhere near there. Picks up steam and gets back. This Lee, I think, is one to look at. Keep an eye on. And then the XPEV is the other one here. Again, similar charts. These are all the same names. Similar charts. This is, looking explosive. So to me, these auto names are looking pretty explosive, which leads me to another American auto name, which I definitely, like. And I think there's a lot going on here. But, when we talk about General Motors, we got long here. Let's call it right around here. And we are long because when we get long, was it last week? So right around here. So we're long because one, the stock is just getting it. It's not that it's just getting known as being an EV stock, right? It's people are starting to look at it and go, you know what? General Motors is a technology company. It's no longer this old union-based factory, using, car development company. It's not old school. This is a new company. They have a lot of new things going on here. And someone like David Einhorn, over the course of the last, very well respected. He hasn't done great in the last few years, but very, very smart guy. Let's just say that. Very, very smart guy. And he is he's the one that brought this GM story many years ago and eventually got out. We talked about that. He might be back in, or he might have tried to get back in here, but he's the one that talked about splitting up the company. So he was one of the first to come up and say publicly, he's an activist type of investor, and says, we think General Motors is valued. The stock was probably, let's call it 2017, 18. Stock's probably right around here. And he says, we think this is valued at a hell of a lot more than $30, $35. And he was in it for a long time. Maybe it was back here. You can just Google and see when Einhorn got into General Motors. But his whole plan was to split up the company. And the company said no. Eventually, he lost the fight to do that. And coronavirus happened. It's bounced back. And now, with the whole EV space, getting back to where momentum matters, where stories matter, GM has an incredible story to tell. Incredible story. Okay, when you're looking at a company that how do I put myself back on it? Let's go away from the chart for a second. There we go. So when you're looking at a company that has different parts to a very large story, it can be pretty exciting as a whole company, but it even gets more exciting if you just separate one of those pieces, right? Because what better way to create value? And this is how the big hedge funds think, the activists. They say, you have 3 or 4 or 5 pieces, and if you just split one off, right now you're valued at 20 billion, but if you split one off, it could be valued at 30, 40 billion, which could double your stock. And so with General Motors, yes, EV is a powerful story, and EV is what they're leaning on right now. And people are talking about EV, but I'm already thinking about how hedge funds are. I'm asking myself, what do the hedge funds think is the next big story, big trend that they could stick their teeth in? And, as I'm researching General Motors, what I really find interesting about General Motors is actually their cruise business. Okay. Their cruise business is the software, right? It's the software that makes the car go, right? So you have General Motors as, what's General Motors market cap right now? GM. Probably I want to say
68 billion.
68 billion. So you have GM's market cap at 68 billion. Think about this. If you separate GM's cruise business, okay? In May, May is like light years away from where we are right now in the trend of EV. But in May, May or June, you had an investment in General Motors cruise business, this cruise business, that valued the company at 19 billion. That was in May, call it the summer, 19 billion. A lot has changed in 5 months. Now, cruise is autonomous driving, and I'm fascinated by it. I'm not sure I won't be the first person to get into an autonomous driving car, without a driver. But if this is the future, and the smart people in the world believe this is the future, then the strides they're making in this business is coming at you so fast. There's a YouTube video, okay, that I sent out to OptionsGeek members to watch. It's a 3-minute video, and you see the car. They're controlling the car, and you could see the car driving on the street in San Francisco without nobody on it. Now, this isn't new. There's another company, I think it was Waze or someone doing it in Arizona, and they've logged 5 million miles for this. I think it's Waze. I can't remember the name, but there's a company doing it in Arizona, and they've logged 5 million miles, and they actually have a report now on how many accidents. It's incredible. It does a great job. And so maybe this is the future, and everybody's going to have these driverless cars. But the idea is that how do you invest in that, right? It's a great story. Okay, we're getting towards that point. There's a tipping point, right? There's development, there's testing, and then there's actually getting on the road. And yes, Tesla's been doing it. Sure, this other company, private company's been doing it. And now I see Cruise is doing it in San Francisco. You're starting to get to that point. Things move very quickly once you're on the road. You start talking about numbers. How big can this business get? Remember what we keep talking about, momentum. Momentum needs a story, something that people can repeat, right? And when you say, oh, driverless cars, and someone says, that's not going to happen for 10 years, and say, it's actually happening in San Francisco, and it's happening in Arizona, and it's going to happen here or here or here. Now it becomes real. So that's an easy story to tell. And the person you tell can then go tell the story. Did you hear about driverless cars? And it goes, nah, that's not going to happen. And they go, it's happening in San Francisco. It's happening in Arizona. That's an easy story to tell. That's how people say, you know what, I'm going to buy 100 shares. And when you get 50 million people to buy 100 shares, the stock goes berserk. So what I'm trying to say is this stock, what I am seeing, and the reason we're buying, we've bought calls here, and we mentioned it here, but we had bought calls a couple of days earlier for premium members. We mentioned it because it's starting to act the way you would think this is going to act if that's what they were doing. They were buying the March 50 calls. They're now today buying. Let's look at GM. Today they're buying February calls. They're buying March calls as well. They're positioning around here, and look, I think right here, some of this stuff, and especially in the front month, I really don't look at, to be honest. But I'm looking more at this earnings because that's the announcement. They were at the Morgan Stanley conference yesterday making positive announcements. In fact, besides cruise for a second, you're telling me this is the future right here. This right here, this is a flying. I mean, I own a Cadillac. This is going to be the Cadillac in the future. The Cadillac Halo portfolio. This is electrical vertical takeoff and land flying cars, basically. This right here is the hood right here. This is the hood. These are sort of they would look like ears up here. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
This is like the fan. This is George Jetson. This is like, I don't know if the Jetsons, when I used to be a kid, he watched the jet flying cars. Okay, that's what this is, flying cars. So we're past, they've already leapfrogged autonomous driving to now autonomous driving, electric vehicles, flying cars, probably to China to make the story even better. But this is where we're going. And so you have these stories. You have this is interesting, but you have people buying options for the earnings. They clearly are setting up for something for the earnings and above and beyond. And my impression, because there's so much pressure on the CEO, and there has been a lot of pressure. Look, General Motors hasn't done anything in years relative to these other stocks, right? They've put in a fortune in EV, in batteries, in software, in all this stuff, and their stock gets no love. Okay, this right here is the definition of I get no love in the stock market. And all of a sudden, it's like when Einhorn wants to do this, he gets rebuffed by the board. And now they're saying, maybe we have to do something. Maybe we have to do something to get the love, to get everyone really excited about General Motors for the next 10 years. So this announcement today about flying cars, maybe that's just to shock the system, to say, by the way, stop thinking about General Motors as some tired old company. Start thinking about General Motors as, competing against Tesla. Right. So we need to shock the world. We need to shock them and say, here, by the way, did you know this? Flying cars, General Motors, Cadillacs. You buy a Cadillac here. Okay, you're going to be driving a Cadillac. We're going to be flying Cadillacs in 5 years. Wow, that's shocking. All of a sudden you start looking at General Motors, and maybe it's a different company these days if you haven't thought of it already. So it's important to understand that, these CEOs are under a lot of pressure to get their stocks up. People who've held General Motors for 5 years, they want it to go up. So they're buying calls in big size, 50s, 60s, the target prices is looking towards, you go out to March and we bought June's, you're talking about $60, $70 price target on this stuff that you're looking for. The only way it's going to get to $60, $70 if they do something that is, that's exciting, that's going to get people to start talking. What could that be? EV, people are already talking, but you know what people aren't talking about? Autonomous driving as much. Right? It's about the electric vehicles. What about electric vehicles being driven by no one? Okay. And how is that going to be controlled? So who are the players in that business? And I would, obviously Tesla is one of them. And the stock is going through the moon. Uber, sorry, again, Uber. Okay. I said it the first time I ever said it was Uber, and I will continue, I guess, to say it. But Uber is another one. And Uber's up today, trading well. But I think behind that, there's autonomous driving, right? It's not only taxis, it's not only Uber Eats, it's also, if they have the software to make this all work, they also have autonomous driving. They have a couple of private companies. Baidu is in there. You see what's going on with Baidu. Okay. They're a player in China. And then you got General Motors, you got Cruise. So Cruise is something that I think is very exciting. If it was to be a standalone company, it would fit perfectly. Let GM keep making cars, keep making flying cars, keep making whatever they want, but let GM Cruise be the software that could actually just be placed in other cars, which means GM Cruise could sell to Ford. It could sell to whoever. If that's the software that works the best, then people will put that in the cars. Manufacturers will put that software in the car. So I think if they could separate Cruise, I think the stock trades up 20% in a day. And they unlock this value of Cruise. If in the summer it was $19 billion, I mean, there's arguments it could be 40 billion. At this point, especially if they're already driving cars in San Francisco. It's whatever people want to pay for it. So in this environment, that's really, really interesting to me. It's something I'm looking at. So I would say General Motors. You pointed out this Ford, I think a week and a half ago, but that's what are you seeing there?
In Ford, in particular, I'm saying, let me tell you exactly which ones. February 19th. Seeing a lot of action today.
Yeah, there's a lot of options trading in Ford. Mm-hmm. I to be honest, I spent most of my time looking at General Motors, and I don't know a ton about, I am sure they're in the EV space. I've seen pictures of their trucks as I'm looking at GM. Have they invested enough in the software? I get more excited about software. I get more excited, but not a hunk of junk that, anybody, as you can see, can come out and say, I'm going to make this car or that car. Software is different. Apple is Apple because of software. So Ford, I've looked at, but I do see it. I do see, I'm looking at the Feb 19s. I'm looking at the Feb 19s here, and I see the open interest is 99,000. I see the volume is 55,000. Open interest here, 35,000, volume 35,000. To me, it smells like a closing trade. So if I just look at it, I look at the puts first here. Let's look at the puts. The volume is right here, 10. Okay, so this is the volume. Stock was going up. Puts, implied vol 51. Where was it today? So this looks like about up +4. So they paid up for the IV. This is not telling a story. It looks to me like actually this one is a buy. It looks like it. This one is a buy. Stock is going up, so it's a little bit contrary to what I'm seeing. And then this one, all over the map a little bit different. Spreads here 15,000 at 1046. Looks like on the offer 46.6. Yep, this one looks like a buy. You know what this might be? It might have been, and I don't know this. I'm anytime it spreads, it's difficult. It might have been someone who sold the $9 puts and sold the $10 calls, and now it's buying it, and now they're buying it back. It's hard to determine this one, I would say. Mm-hmm. I see the stock is trading well, and I'm looking on the side here. We're looking at a stock that is trying to reach, break through 10 first, 9 3/4, which is trying to do here, and then get through 10.5. It's come a long way, but
do we have any information who's holding it?
We could. Everybody holds Ford, right? And it's right. You're gonna see. I was looking at it here. So okay, so I'm on Holdings channel. I think it's a great place to actually. This is where I look at it, but I like it because it has the calls. But so you have someone here with Alkeon is long. Look how many calls they're long. They're long 225,000 calls in Alkeon. So maybe that is them. Maybe that is somebody who's just long a lot of calls. But this is going back as of September. This is September. So the stock was a lot lower. They could have just been calls there and transition back to stock. So that's something that's interesting. Alkeon, they're smart guys. Very smart guys. BlackRock 200 says. So you have major investors. It could have been a BlackRock selling strangles. In this case, they would sell puts, sell calls to manage a little bit, taking some premiums. So I don't think this is going to tell us much right here, but I would say that let's go back here. I just wanted to see where the volume is. See the open interest over here again. It's very high in the puts.
Huge.
Yeah, it might have been someone selling puts, buying calls, or selling both, frankly, as an overwrite. Remember when they're doing this back in December, it's probably right now. Let's see what it is right now. The 10.9. You could take in $1, $1.10. So the way these guys think, if it's someone that's, remember, there's two types of players in the options market. There's the longer term players that will generally sell premium, and then there is the hedge fund guys that are generally going to be buying premium. So the longer term guys are just doing it just to collect a little bit of income. And they're just saying, you know what, I'll buy. If they did this today, let's call it 9-10, they could say I can sell the puts and sell the calls. So that would be 43 cents and 63 cents. That's $1.06. So I can sell the puts and calls. BlackRock owns 275 million. I can do that on a third of the position, and that's 80,000 options, 90,000 options. And is that right? 80,000 options is not, it's actually a lot more than that. So I could do that on 10% of the position and call it 100,000 options. And I would take in $1.07. I'm basically selling some stock, at 11.07, or I'm buying stock back. I'm buying more stock at $7.93. That's more risk reward. It's not telling you exactly. I want to see the GM where they're just buying calls and they're looking for an announcement. They're obviously looking for something. So they're getting long this name. It looks like they're long. They probably has a similar story. I think what it's lacking is the sexy story, the autonomous driving. I think that's what's the only thing lacking. EV, sure, it has EV, just like everybody else has this EV, but I think that's part of the story. So there you go. General Motors and Ford. That's my autos for today. Actually, you know what? That leads us to this is a good one. So looking at these, and we've looked at this over, obviously over the last couple of weeks, I look for things that this is the unusual option table. I look for things that are new. They're new to the board. And over the last couple of days, and then I watch, and over the last couple of days, I've found one that is new. I generally don't do under $10 stocks, but we are in a new era, so I like watching it. This one, okay, I was going to mention yesterday, but didn't. But today, it's here again. This solo stock, Electromechanica Vehicles Corporation, trading $8.27, up $1, 14%. Small cap, March earnings, 88,000 in volume. Big call buying. IV is up, and so if I look at solo, okay, solo is really cool. First, let's take a look at. I saw this because of the opening, the volume starting to pick up over the last couple of days, and they've been buying call options. And you can see today, and even in January, they're putting in the 8s, the 9s, the 10s. In January they're going to be all over the 8s, 9s, and 10s. Same thing. Okay, so it's a lot of trading back and forth. People are starting to get involved in solo, and I looked at it the other day, and I thought it was interesting as a story. I had a chuckle, so let's just go to this article. And this is what you're investing in. Okay, where's the picture? And the big reveal. There it is. I was like, where? I thought it was like a truck. I thought it was a truck that pulls at first when I first saw it. It was like a trailer tractor type of thing. This is the car. It's a 3-wheeler, 2 up front, 1 in the back,
Only one person, right?
1-seater. Can go up to 80 miles an hour. It's almost like a motorcycle. And it's part of the negative part of the story, but it's almost like a motorcycle. And there you have it. It takes you to work and what. I had a chuckle. First time I saw this, I just was like, this is getting ridiculous, but I'll go with it. Like, hey, who am I to say that this can't trade $100? I have no idea. But I started reading up on it, and I start seeing it and seeing what it does. And, I would say that the good news is more technical. It's more, this stock is trading up here, but let's really focus around what's happening over here. Because I think what this company, first of all, this company was $1 stock in April, May. So let's call it what it was. But even back there is $1.80. So this is a penny stock. One thing that I would say right off the bat is that I don't like. It's based out of Vancouver. Okay, so Vancouver, for many new investors, anyone new listening to this, when you see a stock that was a penny stock and it's coming out of Vancouver, Canada, you have to be very careful, because over the last, call it 30 years, probably more like 15, 20 years ago, that when the penny stock started going, a lot of it was coming out of was coming out of Wolf of Wall Street and in Long Island, but it was also a lot was coming out of Vancouver. And over the years, people got arrested and whatnot, and there was a big to do there. So penny stocks. Part of the reason why penny stocks, look, when they work, they're working, and then you can make some money, but you got to be. It's like musical chairs. When the music stops, you don't want to be holding 10 penny stocks that are not going to go up for another 20 years until the next story comes out. But Vancouver has this stigma on it with penny stocks, and you got to be very careful. That's first and foremost. That's what I would say about Solo. Second thing I would say is that the market cap reads around 700 million, but just in looking at this, they have like warrants out there, and I think part of Citron's story was that these warrants, which warrants are given when there's a penny stock situation, the people that get involved in the stock, they all have these warrants that are not classified as shares, but at some point when they get elected, then they pop out and that dilutes the stock, and so you have to count those shares. So the real market cap is close to $1 billion, maybe more, and I think that while I don't give 100%, I don't listen 100% to Citron, you got to respect someone who's out there making a call negative and just listening to what people are saying. And when he's talking about Solo, and he says that they're you can look at it on Seek and Alpha. That's where I heard this, but he basically says they're operating out of a building, an apartment building out of Vancouver. That's a little scary for $1 billion company operating. They've only shipped about six or 10 cars. The bulls are saying, think about the future. I'm looking at that car. I don't think that's the future, but what the hell do I know? The bulls will also say that they're also coming up with this Roadster. It's always on the come, right? Momentum. It's always the story. It's like, this is just the beginning. The next one is the new Roadster or whatever, and it's going to be cooler and better. I don't know. $1 billion seems a lot for this company. Why can't it go to 3 billion, 4 billion? Call buyers are here. They've been coming in, setting up over the last few days. I've given you the playbook, set it up, go put a couple of seeds on, a 1.5 million room person chat room called, 4chan and what's the other one?
Wall Street Bets.
Wall Street Bets, WSB. So Wall Street Bets and 4chan, put a couple of seeds in there talking about Solo, and there you go, off and running. I suspect, and if you were an owner of warrants, Marco, and the stock was $1, and now you just made 7-8 times your money, and you're looking at the office and you're thinking, this doesn't look like $1 billion company. And I don't know, I haven't even seen the office, but if you are that person, would you want to sell some stock? You might want to sell some stock. So I think the negative part of the story is that there might be a secondary offering. A lot of times when the stock goes from $1 to $8, the insiders want to take some money and run, so they do a secondary offering. Maybe that happens, I don't know. But the stock is being set up for a big run. There are call buyers here. If you're looking at the stock, and that's telling a story as well. That's too small. This looks like a pretty explosive stock. While I could see the shorts, what the shorts are thinking, this is, is this the mountain, right? This could be like the hills to get to the big mountain, right? To get to the top of the mountain. This stock, is making a turn here. You had Citron come out somewhere around here, I think, calling it. I got to figure out exactly where they came out, but maybe they came out somewhere over here. I got to figure out the exact date, but anybody can look it up. They came out negative on this, saying that it was going to go back to $2, $2. I think $2. They said, the stock is holding. It held 6 over the course of December. Volume here. I don't know why it would go up so much, but there's nothing preventing this thing going up huge. And again, people are setting up for, where's this point they're going to pop up here? 15. So by the nines, let's say $1.59, $1.60, for a 6-week option, you're thinking $15, $14, $15, $16. So they're looking for that, low teens to mid teens type of move in this stock, which would break this 13.5 high. How do you get there? I don't know. A well-placed PR ad, something. But people are lining up here. It's quietly being accumulated with options, and I see that the after this big move, you're starting to see again volume. I'm looking at volume pick up. So that's all I know. I don't. I'm not going to say yes, no. I'm just simply saying that it is high vol. You're playing a high vol game, but as you see, these stocks could easily go from 8 to 20. I don't think the shorts are getting super excited to keep being short here when they see what could happen to these names. Okay, so another name, you see what you're investing in. They have more ideas on the come, but the Vancouver is scary, and the valuation is a lot higher than it appears on, if you just look on Google, it's closer to $1 billion because of warrants. So that's something to think about.
Okay.
All righty.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, it's a good story. It's interesting. We'll see how
it plays out. But I think the risk reward is actually decent, to be honest. Okay. All right.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
What about semis? Semis, AMD, Intel.
Yes,
I've seen some Intel action going on. You want to take a look at that one?
Well, let's hold on. Let's say I just want to see AMD. So the AMD sell the news here, huh? So she speaks, not good enough. She sells the news. Also, I did read something on Intel. So Intel volume. Yeah, look at that. They're coming after close. There was call buyers in Intel about 4 days ago. They were starting to pick up February options. You got earnings coming out in a week and a half. Call it, and they were buying. Intel call buyers were buying the February 52s, 50. You see this open interest right here, Marco?
Mm-hmm.
They were coming in here. They're still kind of coming in here. Look at the 57s they're buying. So they announced. Yeah, that was it. That was the article I read earlier today. They basically announced 4 new processors. Interesting. It's not coincidence that they happen to announce that and bring that out either the night before or the day of. AMD speaking, right? So it's a combination of them fighting AMD and trying to take the wind out of AMD's whatever AMD was going to say. So hey, AMD is doing great. She's out there talking positive. Here comes Intel saying, oh yeah, by the way, we got 4 fantastic new things, all these upgrades, and this new chip or new processor coming out in the next 6 months. So I would say Intel is. Let's just make sure. Yeah, looks like a buy here. Looks like a buy. Let's just see something. 7. Okay. IV 41.9. Let's just see where it was. So it was 40 and a half. So they paid 41.9. They did that at around 11.10. I'm looking at a spike in vol at 11.10 here. Let's just try to make sure. 11.06. Yep. Okay, 11.06. Yes. Okay. I also could look at time of sales. So if I'm looking at time of sales and I see, just go down and you see, at 11.06 they paid. You can see 11.03 they pay 11.28, 11.32, 11.34 every minute, 11.37, 38, 39, 46. Yeah, stocks racing. They're also looks like they're paying. They were paying higher up in vol. So this looks like there was a buyer here. So they continue to buy the 57.5 calls. If I look at the 57.5 calls, I'm looking at 62.5. As a risk reward break even. So they're probably thinking somewhere around 65-ish. So let's just take a look at where I get the 65. So you see where I'm going? I want you to recognize that you're doing the right thing. You're finding flow. We're making sure that there's a buyer of calls, and then we're trying to figure out, does it make sense, right? Does it make sense? Meaning, is what he buying, can I logically get there to someplace? So what do we say? 65. So there you go. So the top of the range is 67. This is 64. This is 67. They're looking for some reason to Intel to sort of break this downtrend here and trade back up to around here. Why? How would it get there? Intel is still, we talked about this in the last couple episodes, Intel is still a major chip maker. You have an infrastructure deal, trillions and trillions of dollars Biden's going to put and everything you build right now has technology and needs chips. And so they will benefit from that just because they are one of the largest, if not the largest chip maker in the world. So, so you know, we know the AMD story, how they're catching up, but at the end of the day, this is, you know, all chips will rise. I mean, we had Micron 85 call buyers, stocks trades. Let's just go back a little bit just to get a better view. Stock is trading well even after such a large spike. You know, had this spike, it holds 78. It's trying to push through that 80. We're seeing buyers of the 85 calls. Again, it's just that this infrastructure, the build out, when these semis go, they go. I would target even 74. Look at this, from 50 to 74. That's 24 plus 69 back in the envelope. You know, you're talking about $93, $94 is what, you know, this you could see there. Again, you need a good market. Taiwan Semi, this thing is crazy. It's just gone up so much. Very large stock. It's hard to move this stock, and yet the market has moved it in a very, very big way. So there's a lot of money flowing into Taiwan Semi. Is there flow in Taiwan Semi?
I've seen some January 29.
January 29.
Actually, 140 calls. Take a look at those.
Jeez, really? Okay, January 15th. So let's take a look here. January earnings this week. So people setting up for the earnings. What's this? Okay, people setting up for the earnings, and
140 go down.
Wow.
Yeah, there you go. That's a surprise. And look at the target. Like,
wow,
it's huge.
150. Wow, this is odd.
Probably like 160-ish.
It's odd. I mean, how big is Taiwan Semi? Let's look at some market cap of Taiwan Semi.
Let me take a look.
So it's only 550 billion.
Right. Only.
Wow. Okay. So let's just take a look. I'm. This is interesting. So Taiwan Semi, they're buying. Is this right? They're buying the January 140 calls. Okay, so they think it's going a lot higher. Let's just look at something. I want to see something for a second. Excuse me. It's outside of the range of generally where they look, this is an odd trade. It's just, you know, if you thought it was going up, I would expect they're buying somewhere in here. And they would, if you think it's going to 150, why not buy it here? So buying here is a little odd to me. Okay, then, right, if I'm a Bank America, I'm asking a question, why are you buying that one, right? If someone's coming in, I want to buy 10,000 of these for $1, I would say, why? Like, why would you buy that one? Why not buy this one? And I would be doing that to hear what they had to say, right? Because it's all trickery, right? It's all, you know, they want you to believe something. You know, who knows? You know, it's all trickery. You're face to face against a shark, and he wants you to put him up at $1, and you want to know why. The real risk, in, to be honest, in that trade from a volatility perspective, is that the stock actually goes back down to 100. That's the real risk, you know, for me. So I want to know, do you like the stock, or are you just doing this because for another reason? So my initial thought is this is a buy. It looks like a buy. There's a spread here, so I'm going to look for that spread at 11.28, and it looks like 59.58. Yeah, it looks like it was a buy. Okay, that's one. The stock went down, which is interesting. Like, the stock was going down, and they were buying these calls. You see that?
Yes.
You see that the stock is a buy. The options are a buy because vol's going up, but the stock is going down. Excuse me. So this is interesting.
So what could that mean when we're looking at it?
Yeah. So, well, what's going through my mind is that I'm pretty sure it was a buy, and I'm pretty sure it's a buy because the volatility, it's trading at around 57. The volatility that it was trading was a reach. Like, they're reaching here for 60 vols. It's a lot in Intel. Three vol points is a lot in Intel. So, I'm thinking that this guy doesn't think it's going up. This could actually be a short. This could actually be someone who's short the stock, and he's actually buying these as protection because, like I told you, semis can go ridiculous to ridiculous levels. So maybe he's shorting the stock ahead of earnings. Here, let me just look at this for a second. 11.28 I'm looking at. There, 11.28. So 11.28. So okay. So this is 52.5. Okay, so I'm sure this is going to be okay. So this is 52.5. So he looks like he sold 52.5. He sold these 2,000 times, and he bought 11.28. Okay, so right around here, it looks like he sold the call spread. He sold the call spread. That would make sense that the the stock also went down. And to me, and then the vol comes right down afterwards. So it looks like he was selling a call spread, and then and the call spread means he sold the 125s. So he sold the 125s. He's buying the 140s, and somebody bought a lot of these, but it's so outside of the range of where they generally buy that it's odd. And when they bought it, that the stock didn't go up, it actually went down. I would say that this is a little odd. After stock has gone, you're talking about the stock has moved up 30 points in a month, and they have earnings this week. I'm going to go on a limb here. I'm going to say that this might be somebody shorting the stock, somebody short the stock, and he's using these calls to get a little short, and he's buying these 140s here to sort of protect a large short, 1 million shares of short, or maybe half a million, and hopefully if it actually rips, then he can make a little bit more. So it'd be like selling short 500,000 and buy 10,000 of these calls. It's odd. This is an odd trade to do. Not saying, and on top of that, it's a $550 billion company. It's almost like saying he knows it's not going to work, but if it does work, geez, then I'm in a lot of trouble, right? Because I'm short so much, so I need this protection here. So for $1, let me throw it away because I'm about to make 15 because the stock's going to trade back down to 105, right?
Right.
I don't know. That's my read. I would read that this is actually someone who might be actually betting lower. And again, these things, they trick people, right? The hedge funds are not stupid. They know people are following their every move. And if you're big, you know what's going on. So, if you're short, you can, and you're pretty confident about where it's going. For example, if you know that the stock's going to 105, it can go to 105 a lot easier if everybody's long. So if everybody's long, they have to all sell on bad news. So if you can get everybody long, and what's the easiest way to do that? Well, if there's 1 million people Robinhood, I'm just going to buy 10,000 calls for $1, get everybody long because everybody, and I'm going to make sure I tell everybody. So that was the other thing I would always, when I'm sitting at Bank of America, if somebody tells me information, my first thought is, why are they telling me this? How did that information get to me? I'm the last person to hear anything when I'm sitting there and people are shooting a gun at me sitting at Bank of America. So why would I hear that this guy's getting long and he wants me to get long? Like that would be odd. So this is that feeling I get. The spidey senses are up that I don't know. It seems odd. So that's all I'm going to say. Is that fair? Okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
I would say it seems like it's actually more short. Somebody's trying to sell the stock. And actually, if you look at the stock's having a little bit of trouble right here. You see down day traded up here, and it's trading off from 125. So 125 is a sticking point. It's come a long way in a month. We're talking about 95 to 125. That's 30 points. That's 40%, right? 30%. 30%, and 30% on 540 billion is, it's $160 billion in this thing, $150 billion. That's a lot. Call it 150 billion. It's a lot. It's a lot. So, yeah, that we'll go to the next one. So that was all right. So that's semis. I mean, you got the AMD, Intel, TSM, Micron. They've been bullish. This Taiwan semi, maybe that's one of the shorts that they're coming into. So to match it up, the long Micron, long Intel, short Taiwan semi, something like that.
Cool. Interesting. All right.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you. Real quick, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in with us. I want to ask you, if you got any questions, just let us know in the comments. We're going to be looking at UOA in any second now. So just make sure you comment stock. And then what always helps is a particular expiration and something you're looking at. Maybe if it's a put, it's a call, which strike, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, thank you. And make sure you subscribe, like, share, comment. We appreciate it. And we need your help to actually get to where we want to be, and that's getting in front of a lot of people, and then imagine like there's more people in the comment section. They're coming.
Yeah, that's the important part. The important part is that the more people that get on this, I can teach the 20 of us, and we can bat around ideas all day. But if the more people I can teach on how to analyze this stuff, the more interesting this podcast gets. Right? The more people that have ideas and start spotting things that are interesting, the more interesting the podcast gets. So the more people that are commenting on what the company does. I have no idea what 99% of these companies all do, but I'm doing it just like every other person's trying to do it. The more people that know about the companies that can put in the comments, hey, this is why we think it's going up, or this is interesting, or here, take a look at the chart and the 30-day moving average or 50-day or whatever you look at. Those things make it interesting for everyone. And I will try to figure out a way to make it, to start, liking or pushing, ask the community to push the good comments to the top, so that you could research, so that you can go back, you can use the YouTube channel as a resource to actually, that's the idea, to use it as a resource to actually remember what was happening at the time, and then to actually get information that was available at the time by looking at the comments and saying, here's a smart guy. This smart guy was saying something, nobody has names, but we'll know who it we'll call it whoever is, the guy is. And this guy seems to comment on a lot of things, and he seems pretty smart. And you can then follow that guy, or you can at least, remember his comments. And then during the podcast, we can watch more and more of the smarter comments and people who have intelligent things to say, and respectfully, we can have a respectful conversation. I'm not saying anybody could agree with me. That's fine. Agree or disagree, that's fine. Or agree and disagree with people on the chat. But we want to make sure that there's a level of respect. I have no problem. Just, it's very easy for me to press a button and knock somebody out. So I don't mind. You tell me I'm crazy, I'm looking at it the wrong way. That's totally fine. I have no problem with that. You call me a name and tell me that, then there's no need for that. So respect. I grew up on Wall Street in a corporation, and everybody was, we batted around ideas. Everyone was smart in the room. So my idea is just as valid as your idea, and your idea is just as valid as the next person. So that's what we're trying to build. And I think it's very important that we all put our thoughts together and try to help each other. So that's what I'll say. Right. But Marco, why don't you ask, you have a question? I'll give you
exactly
a shot here.
Before doing that, I just want, you said a resource, a good resource. Now, many people might not even know that we have a great resource on the website. And that's if you go to homepage and, for example, search here in the search bar, for example, type in NVIDIA.
Right.
Type in NVIDIA and it pops up search results where we talked about NVIDIA. And then, for example, here you can click on it, and this is an individual clip. You can see other related ideas. On the side, you can see recommended stuff for you, all these different things. You can see the full episode. So definitely use this as a resource. Search across the website. You're going to find a lot of great stuff. Now, when you said there's a power in a group, a lot of people doing things, pushing things. I don't know if you heard about Signal. Elon Musk tweeted, Signal, an alternative private messaging app.
I'm thinking about going to Signal too, but my wife tells me WhatsApp or something's going on. I'm
exactly.
like what? Okay, I'll switch. All right. So what
people heard it. They didn't even do any research. They just went probably to Robinhood. They tapped in, okay, Signal. All right, there's a stock. Let me buy some. He went from 60 cents to $38 in just a matter of 3-4 days. And the best part about it is just type in Signal stock. But the crazy thing about it is Signal is a private company, and this is some healthcare company completely unrelated.
Yeah, there's no Signal stock.
Pushed up 11,000.
Oh my gosh!
Right. So it's incredible. It's incredible what they did. The power people have.
Oh my gosh!
I bet the CEO of that company is really happy now. And
maybe, unless he's maybe who knows? Yeah, who knows? I mean, that's insane.
It's a crazy story.
It's SGIL. SIGL. Sorry, SI.
Yeah, pull it up. Wow, look at that.
Wow. Anyway, so there you go. I mean, that is absolutely insane. I didn't hear this story. This was like the other one, like the Kodak a while back. Imagine somebody short that name. Like there's computers that are short that name. This is what I was telling you, where it's like, if you attack a name, the power to attack a name, it's incredible what's happening. It's incredible. So if somebody wakes up, like these computers are short these dollar names, and because they might be going to zero, but all of a sudden they get confused because Elon must tweet something, and then the WhatsApp thing got more news over this course of the last couple of days. I mean, because of what happened, the censorship stuff. I mean, this is insane. $1 went to $70, went down to now it's still 16.5. But oh my God, that's insane. So crazy. Well, look, I mean, it just goes to show you, really, it's it just goes to show you that I am trying to. How do we get back here?
All right,
get back there. So it just goes to show you how momentum works and a story works, and how you got to be careful shorting stocks in this environment. The professional shorts, they understand this. They're running to the options market more and more to make the best, but they are looking for this mountain. This is now a mountain. This is something that the shorts, they're probably, this likely doesn't happen again because people now know they made a mistake. Now everybody who's long it is trying to get out, and so the stock should eventually go to 1. But what usually happens is, you start getting these jagged moves up back maybe to 22.5, 10 to 10, 15. It's usually just after this, it usually just doesn't go back straight to 1 in 4 days. It should, even though it usually doesn't, takes a little bit of time. But look, anything can happen in this type of market. You cannot, that doesn't mean you go buy everything and you just assume that everything will happen. You got to pick your spots. You got to try to find things early on. If you can find things early on, that solo is pretty early. The one thing I worry is that they're going to make a secondary announcement and the stock gets drilled, and then it just floods the market with stock. So I'm very skeptical about a lot of these names, and momentum is a powerful thing, and you have to respect it. It's like the ocean, ocean goes left, you're going left. Ocean goes right, you're going right. You have to respect the ocean, right? You can't just be this person. So momentum, Marco, you're living through something that this is a time that you will talk about. You will talk about this 20 years from now, when you're talking to people and you're telling people, yeah, I was trading during this time and the market was going nuts. There's no reason why any stock can't go from it's unlimited to the upside. To the downside, you can only stop by 0. So options right now are an important product, but it's not just that you use it on every single trade. You're there trying to find opportunity, which is what we're doing. So let that be a lesson that, that's why shorting, short calls. What about when it got to 6? There's a story there, and I don't know if there's options, but when it got to 7.5, of course, it's not going to get to 12.5. I mean, I don't know if there's any options in this thing, but, did people sell calls? And you sell calls, you get blown up there. I hope there are. Jeez, is this it? This is a disaster. I don't know what the hell this is. This might be something different. I don't know. This is, I don't know what this is, but anyway, I don't even know what the hell I'm looking at, Signal Advance. But I would caution people. So, people who are selling calls for a living or selling puts for a living in this type of market, okay, you have to expect the unexpected. You can't just say implied volatility is high and I can get $5 for this $100 call in NIO. And all I got to do is wake up every morning for 8 weeks. And by the time I wake up for 8 weeks, I'm going to collect that $5. I mean, you have no idea how. I mean, what time is it? I could tell a short version of a story that, when I was on Wall Street, I talked to big hedge funds. I also talked to many smaller hedge funds, $50 million to $200 million hedge funds. When you're on the phone with someone and I'm talking to them, they're asking me for advice on how to position. They know where the stocks are going. There was a stock called Net. I think it was net.com, or I think it was net.com, banknet.com. It was a banking stock. It was a bank on the internet. Okay. And the person was saying, how can this company, I believe it was NetBank, that was the name, netbank.com. And the idea was, how can netbank.com be worth more than Goldman Sachs? Okay. It was such a small little company. How could it be worth more than Goldman Sachs? And he said, I'm long Goldman Sachs and I want to be short NetBank. And he said, I want to sell these calls. I've already sold 100, 200. I want to keep building. And he said, am I thinking about this correctly? It was probably January, and he wanted to sell March options. And he said, if I sell March options at the stock was around 50. If I sell the 80 calls, he said it's valued at $10, $5. That's what it was valued. If I sell the 80 calls and the 80 calls are $5, are you telling me that if it doesn't go above 80, I collect the $5? I said, yes. I knew where this was going. So I said, yes, I'm going to tell you that's correct. He said, and if I sell this many, does that mean this many shares? 500, that means 50,000. Yes. 5,000, that means 500,000. The answer to that, yes. I won't say his name. Yes. He said, okay. And will I be able to get out? I said, I don't know. We don't know. We can't tell, but it seems somewhat liquid right now, but who knows? He wound up selling 500. The stock went from 50 to 60. Then he sold 500 more, 60 to 65, 70, just like these stocks are doing, and no different. And he started selling more of the 80s. He wound up selling about 5,000 of the 80 calls. Okay. NetBank. Okay. NetBank by the top was in March, April. Okay. By mid February. Okay. Maybe he was doing it February to April. By mid-February, the stock, NetBank, this is real story. The stock went from 80 and it went in, maybe it split or whatever. I don't know. It went from, I'm telling you the story, it went from 80, it went up one day to 120, where he called me up and I could tell he was like panicked. And he's like, I got this spread on and I'm losing money. It wasn't that big of a hedge fund. And it went from 120 in 3 days. It went from 120, 2 days, 120 to 180 to 256. And the reason why I know 256, now his emotions, he was calling me every 5 minutes. And I was very sure at Bank of America, we had our lines taped. It was, it's all regulated. And I knew how to answer the questions, to be factual, to advise him that there was an enormous amount of risk, which I was. I kept telling him to cover, get out of this position. I could tell from his screaming over the phone and being upset, or he was screaming at me. And I was just trying to calm him down and say, get out of the position, just get out. This was at 85, 90. Every time I called, just get out. And he wouldn't get out. He said, it's crazy. The stock's only valued at 10. It went to 256. The reason I know 256 was because at 250, he called me up on the phone. I thought he was on drugs. I thought he was smoking like marijuana or something like that. He was so calm. He almost like he just basically said, just buy these back. And to buy, I mean, the stock was going up $5, $10 at a clip, right? Like Plug is going for a couple of days. This was doing $10. So in minutes. And so when he went to buy back the calls, he was basically buying hundreds of thousands of shares of stock. And my trader wasn't going to give him a price because it's basically, the question was, where can I buy 500,000 shares of stock or 300,000 shares, whatever he was doing at the time, because he did start buying a few back from 200 up. But right at the end, he bought some, and you have this situation where we actually said, we're going to buy stock and then we can offer you the options. We wound up paying my trader, okay, at the time, he paid 256 and we were putting up. We made no money on the trade. We did it for the guy just as a commission. But I know the high was around 256 and change 257 because we paid it. Okay. And it went from 256 the next day to the 2 days later, it was down to 110. And this guy had blown up his whole hedge fund on one trade. So what I want to say to you is that selling options in this environment, man, you take in a lot of premium, but I'm going to warn you that, do not think it cannot happen. So if you want to do 1x2s, all these different strategies, sell calls, sell puts, 1x2s, if you're leaving an open leg somewhere, just be very, very careful because, the impossible could happen. And the impossible means that you could blow up. And don't think that you're not going to be the guy buying it back at the high because TD Ameritrade you're not going to have a chance to say, oh, I think it's going to come down if we just hold it for another hour. TD Ameritrade they have computers, and the minute they start seeing something like this happen, they take all the positions, they aggregate them, they close everybody's book, and they buy it back. Or if you're short, they buy back. If you're long, they sell you out. And usually that's at the worst possible price because at that point, they're going to Citadel or whoever's taking the other side of the trade and just saying, I need to buy this, print it wherever you got to go. I don't care. And they take wherever it prints, the accounts get wiped out. So I would caution you in this environment. It's very tempting to say, if I just sell this option, I can make, X dollars over the course of the next 2 weeks. Trust me, it's not free money. Okay. Just because IV is greater than HV, I would throw this book at you if you told me that. If you told me, oh, I'm going to do this, because I literally would throw something at you because you didn't learn anything I've been trying to teach you. Okay. It's important. It's important. You could sell options. I have no problem with you trying to sell options as long as you find opportunity. I like cash covered calls. I like, cash puts. But I don't like, oh, I'm just, NIO calls at $3 and the stock, $100 calls for 3 months and I can collect that money. Let me tell you, it's not free money. It's not free money. And, it can be lights out for Marco, if you just think that that's free money. And I don't want you to do that. So that's to you and to message to everyone that it's important to understand. Okay, you're going to win a lot selling options, but in this environment specifically, we are entering what I think is the final phase of this big bull market. It might be 6 months, and then you get the ultimate, final phase. But to me, it seems like we're starting to get closer and closer as you see these stocks going up. Some are already falling off the other side of the mountain. Some are still going. It's very, very important that you don't get caught up in that. So I want to make sure that you and everybody listens just doesn't get caught up with just because the IV is high and the premiums are high and you can sell and make some money, that it's free money. Trust me, it's not free money. And trust me, you don't have an edge. Okay. So everybody's saying, oh, you got this edge because IV. The best thing I could say to you is, trust me, there's not an edge in just blanket selling options. There has to be a process underneath it. I don't care to sell options. Anybody can sell options. You can make money. I believe that. Okay. But there's a process in doing that. And you have to understand the process, and you have to understand the risk, and you have to understand when you want to try to get the hell out, or, what happens when there's danger, what happens when something, and people say, well, yeah, then I just get out at this point. Sometimes you can't get out. In a flash crash, everybody thought they can get out. Oh, I'm selling these puts, and in a flash crash, oh, well, and if it hits, I'll sell these 10 delta puts, and when it hits 30 delta, then I get out. No questions asked, I get out. And then I ask, well, what happens if there's another flash crash and you actually, there is no 30 delta, like I want to stop. The markets, you can't even trade the market, and TD Ameritrade just sold you out at $60 lower than your strike. And by the way, all that money you made over the course of the last 3 years just got wiped out. So be careful, because you think there's an exit. You have to know there's an exit. It's a mirage. It's a mirage to think that there will be an exit when you best need that exit. Trust me on that. Trust me. It's a lesson I don't want you or anyone else to learn. When you're selling options naked, calls are fine. You want to do call spreads? There's risk in call spreads too. You people show me these call spreads where they're doing call spreads where they're doing stuff on hard to borrow names. Trust me, you can get in trouble there too. So you got to be careful. You got to know the product, know what you're doing. And I think it's important. I think it's very important for any new person to understand that. So we're in a momentum phase of this bull market. This is tulips, tulip phase. This is 1999, anything goes. So just be very, very careful. Fair enough?
Thank you. That was a great lesson.
All right, good. Okay.
Got a lot of great, cool comments. One person commented, "I'm dreaming of mountains now."
Exactly.
One more step out of the war
just
story.
Climb the mountain. Just make sure you have like a parachute, or you got a helicopter. The billionaires, they have a helicopter at the top of the mountain. Okay. Mm-hmm. Which is JP Morgan saying 140,000 on Bitcoin, just happens to be 5 minutes before the top of the fucking, top of the mountain. So anyway, go ahead.
Great.
What are we at next?
It's already 2 p.m. I think we should leave some UA for tomorrow.
All right, let's do that. Let's do that. I would say, I'll just let people look at it. I would say, Party City, GoGo, GOGO. They look interesting. I was going to look more into them. We'll look at it tomorrow. Etsy, and eBay's trading great. eBay, we're long eBay. I like eBay. I like it because it's a thick stock. It's a real stock. It's a real company. Elliott Management's behind it. They're trying to turn it around. There's a lot of hair and a lot of problems, but a good holiday season can light this up pretty quick. So I like the risk reward there, because it can turn. People are not in eBay, but they're looking for that next turnaround story that's gonna work over 2021.
Okay,
that's all I got, man. Lights out. Be good.
Lights out. Be good. And I want to thank everybody for joining us. Please subscribe, like, comment, share. We really appreciate it. You get the gist. We'll keep growing stronger. All right.